Fersan in the Field, Real Issues, Real Solutions was brought to you by Newport-Fersan, Jamaica Limited, the first on the land.
All right, so it is now time for Fersan in the Field, Real Issues, Real Solutions. And one of the real issues that our farmers have had in recent times is that we lost about 74% of our banana and plantain crops. And so many of us are wanting a little bit of a taste of a green banana right now and can't get it. And so the spotlight this morning is on banana and plantain production and resuscitation efforts. Melvin Henry, Technical Manager, Newport-Fersan, Jamaica, joins us. Good morning, Melvin.
Good morning, Alger. Good morning to our listeners.
Good to have you on with us. And Orl Lewis is Head of Extension Services with the Banana Board. Good morning, Mr. Lewis, and welcome back to the show. How are you?
Okay, I'm doing well. Thanks so much, and I just greet the listeners as well. Thanks for having me once more.
It's a pleasure to have you on, and a little bit later on we'll also hear from two farmers, banana farmers, Herman Campbell and Noel Clark. But of course we're going to get the ball rolling with you gentlemen first and get a sense of what has been happening. Now, interestingly, ahead of the storm, I remember Mr. Lewis having conversations with us here on the program about how it is that banana farmers should be taking care of their bananas, and we did have conversation post Hurricane Beryl as well. So it is good to have you back, and good to know that we are at the point where we are taking a look at the resuscitation efforts and what is going on. But Melvin, let me start with you. We've been receiving a lot of rain over the last couple of days, and the Met Office has now the Met Office has indicated that, listen, we're going to continue to get rain, and that they have also issued flash flood warnings and watches for Jamaica. And then, of course, also indicating that what we're feeling now, the effects of tropical cyclone number 9. So we know there's a lot going on. So that is where I wanted to start. With rains forecast for the next couple of days, what are the likely challenges that banana farmers will face, and how do they navigate these?
Unfortunately, Althea, with the weather as it is, there are several challenges that banana and plantain farmers, and by extension all of our farmers, will have to contend with. One of which is the fact that this wet condition actually promotes fungal and bacterial diseases. So there is the likelihood of us having higher risk of infection. And once that happens, then we're going to experience reduction in yields. Additionally, because of the consistent rainfall, and again, a part of a matrix depending on the soil type on which our farmers are operating, the intensity and duration of the rainfall, we are likely to see a lot of nutrients being displaced, and as a result of that, some of our plants will not have access to some much needed nutrients, and that in and of itself can also contribute to nutrient deficiency, and the rippling effect is that you'll have compromised yields. We're arguably heading into one of the most productive seasons of our calendar year, where we'll see Irish crops like Irish potato and onions being planted in large volumes. The reality is that where we are in the scope of things, you could have significant delays in land preparation, and if persons attempt to prepare with higher than ideal moisture levels in the soil, you could have compaction, which is actually counterproductive because the plants will not develop as they should. So there's a whole host of things that we have to contend with, weed pressure and stuff like those. But our farmers being resilient and having access to the necessary guidance will always tap into those set of resources for us to guide in terms of making the necessary changes or contingency plan to go ahead.
Okay, so The farmers, boy, I tell you, I really have a lot of respect for the farmers, because there's so much that is going on around them. And when they think that they have one challenge that they have navigated, they're now moving on to a next, but they're doing it with a plum. They are making sure that whatever it is that they need to do, they're going to get it done. All right, let me get to Mr. Lewis. Mr. Lewis, Hurricane Beryl impacted banana production in Jamaica in a major way. Where are we now? What have the final figures revealed, first of all? And what kind of program is in place now to help farmers get back on their feet and to get production going?
Okay, all right. So, yes, it's, as I said, it's around about 74% in terms of the affected areas across the country, which really, it's really about 1,400 hectares that was actually damaged across the island, between large farmers, small farmers, right across the country. And we're talking about, we have over 2,400 farmers across the island. But as far as the recovery efforts are concerned, yes, I was on your program before and afterwards. Talking about the different measures that we want farmers to implement, and but even before that, as soon as the hurricane passed, we basically activated our catastrophe fund program. Over 74 farmers were benefited to the tune of about $11.2 million. That's over 600 hectares. For the farmers that utilize that facility. It is there for everyone, but they utilize that facility, and of course within a month they would have gotten fertilizer to commence the operation. And then following that, of course, through the government program, through the Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries Hurricane Beryl Recovery Program, they had the Banner Board was asked to administer that $40 million, which is on the way, and there's another emergency budgetary allocation for Hurricane Beryl through the government. And so that is also in train, working closely with RADA to implement this program, fertilizer assistance program across the island. So and farmers are, there are different levels, of course, based on their implementation and based on the funds that they have available to complement this assistance, because this assistance is just one aspect. This is a fertilizer application. We talk on the program, before we had the issue of the chop-up program. We talk about drainage, pruning, fertilizer application, weed control, borer management, etc. And all of those are part of the whole rehabilitation program, which we are working closely with farmers to ensure that these practices are carried out. That would ensure us, returning to where we were before Beryl struck, which normally is about 7 to 9 months, depends on what is done by the farmers.
All right. So the fact is that if the farmers sit up and pay attention to the advice that is being offered to them, they can better navigate the challenges. But that also brings me to the question of how important, when we talk about 74% of bananas and plantains being lost, how important would you say banana and plantain production are? How important is it, rather, within the context of our current local agricultural framework, and how crippling was Hurricane Beryl overall?
All right. So as I mentioned, so we say banana and plantain is really critical to the livelihood of to these farmers that we spoke about, over 2,400 farmers. Right, and also workers. There are another 6,000 workers that depend upon banana and planting, for their livelihood, and this is island wide. There are also other businesses that are associated with this production, in terms of the hotel trade waiting on this banana, the supermarket trade, in the parochial market, other businesses in the processing and all that depend on banana for. In terms of their operations. And of course, finally, the consumers. The consumers, of course, most Jamaican consume bananas in in varying ways, whether green, ripe, and chips farm, and in terms of baked products, etc. So, it really is really very important, and we have been trending upwards in terms of our production. The past 3 years, we have average in terms of banana over 65,000 tons and planting 55,000 tons. We have even our exports have been trending upwards, in the region of 900 tons, 700 to 900 tons, and so, these areas will be significantly impacted. Thankfully, we're about halfway through the year, and so we had some production in the first part of the year. But the latter part of the year is where the critical fallout has been and will continue to be until we resume fully. We estimate by January, February, we should be back, to where we were, close to where we were pre-Beryl. That's our projections.
And part of this is, of course, because banana is a 9-month crop.
Yeah, it's a 9-month crop. But the thing is that if the farmers follow a certain protocol, so it's 9 months from establishment. But when you have a hurricane, if the farmers maintain their production or their feeds in such a way that what we refer to as the followers are such an age that possibly about 3 to 4 months old. It means that when you have the fall, the destruction of the parent, right, or those large maiden plants, then these suckers will be around about 3 months old or thereabout, and that they will take now another 6. These plants will shoot another 3 months, and another 3 months or so, 3-4 months. Then you could get banana back in the market. But if that pruning practice is not followed, that is where the problem will be. And also, if you have major uprooting of the mats because of poor management of the mats, poor borer and nematode management, what you'll have there is a lot of plants that fall down, uproot. And if they uproot, then you have to replant. But if you don't have uprooting, good root management, and then the plant just topple, and then the suckers are not disturbed, and those suckers are the ones that are going to give you the bunch as quickly as possible, and that determines where you talk about 7 months or 9 months.
Right. So essentially, what we should have been seeing, Mr. Lewis, based on the advice that you gave before and what is happening now, is that we should be seeing banana and plantain production in various stages if the protocols were followed. And we'll take a look at that when we come back. Plus, I'm going to introduce to the conversation 2 farmers to get their story. Then we delve deeply. We do a deep dive into the technical aspect of all of this.
No problem.
All right, so we're inside the feature, First-Hand in the Field, Real Issues, Real Solutions. And this morning, the spotlight is on banana and plantain production and resuscitation strategies. We have with us Melvin Henry, Technical Manager, Newport-Fersan, Jamaica. Or Lewis is Head of Extension Services at the Banana Board. And we're going to be joined now by Noel Clark, a banana farmer. Mr. Clark, good morning and welcome to the show. How are you?
Good morning, my lady. I'm doing fine.
Good. Can you first of all tell us how the passage of Hurricane Beryl affected your operations?
Affected me really, really bad. It almost destroyed.
How much of your crop you estimate you lost?
About 90%.
Wow, that's devastating.
Very much.
Right. And what have you been doing since post-Beryl, to bring yourself back to a position where you are going to bring produce back to market?
Well, immediately after the hurricane passed, we start chopping up the field and cleaning up, and put on the chemical or the inputs, if you will. And so far, we're doing fairly well.
Okay, very good. Was there anything that you perhaps did not do prior to the hurricane that, in hindsight, you think you could have done that might have saved you losing so much of the crop?
No, ma'am. There's nothing that you can do to prevent banana from falling during hurricane.
So it is based on where. So I would imagine it's based on where it is that you're located and getting some strong headwinds. So that would have resulted in the devastation.
Well, yes. Why say hurricane pass over you? You really, there's nothing you can do to prevent it from topple the banana.
Right, that leads me, though, to where it is that you are now in the process of resuscitation. What has been going on in terms of the work that you're doing with the banana board?
Well, the banana board has been very, very integral in the recovery of the banana. Because through the catastrophe fund that is managed by the banana board, we have gotten the input very timely. Just as we finish the chopping up, we got the fertilizer and technical support too in terms of how to do the resuscitation.
Excellent. And where does that leave you in terms of a timeline to get banana back into the market?
Well, I'm hoping that by December we should be at least about 30-40%.
Okay, good.
By January now we should be at least
you'll only go up from there.
Pardon me?
I'm saying you can only go up from there.
Yes, you can go up from there.
Yes. All right. So I thank you so very much for sharing with us this morning, Mr. Clark, and I wish you all the best. So sorry that you had those challenges. By the way, do you have both bananas and plantains?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
And so when you speak of that devastation, that 90%, it covers both?
It includes everything, bananas and plantains.
All right. Thank you so very much, Mr. Clark, Noble Clark. And a typical story of what would have happened to banana and plantain farmers in the eastern end of the island and in other parts of the island, actually. Places like Clarendon, where they grow a lot of bananas, would have been impacted by these kinds of challenges as well. And in just a bit, we're also going to be hearing from Herman Campbell. But let me bring Mr. Lewis back in. Mr. Lewis, is that typical of the kinds of stories that you would have been hearing about and seeing as you did your assessments?
Yes, similarly, just like Mr. Clark, of course, he would have been way up on the in terms of the scale of damage, 90%. I mean,
yes,
even
that's
St. Mary.
it's
the first time I've seen such what we call variability, because farmers, of course, even in St. Mary would have even have 40%, 60% thereabout. But his case, it was extreme in that area, right? But generally speaking, the damages were there were critical damages to farmers in general.
All right, and we are going to be joined by another one of the farmers, but before I get to that, let me bring Melvin back into the conversation, because clearly, Melvin, as I listen to Mr. Clark, he is well on the road to recovery, no doubt, because of the assistance that he has received from the banana board, because he did say that. But also, I know that part of what is happening is that it's about nutrient management and how it is that the farmers are using their fertilizer and the chemicals to help to ensure that they're able to save their plants. Tell us a little bit more about the work that is being done out there in the field with the farmers in getting them back into production.
Okay, so you're right, Althea. A part of the recovery and resuscitation process has to do with us responding to the technical realities in the field. And so it's not about what obtains traditionally, but it's a response to what is happening within the moment. Now, by this I mean, in recent times, we have been doing at Newport-Fersan analysis on our nutrient status from soil analysis done across the length and breadth of the island. And I'm just going to share two pieces of information that would have led to us developing what is now known in the trade as the booster line of fertilizers, which exists both in a granular form and for those using fertigation or injection, soil injection, can use the soluble version. Now, when we look at magnesium, which is an essential nutrient element, and just to put things into context, for every 1 metric ton of banana that is produced, it requires on average 8 kilograms of magnesium. Now, when we looked at our database, 75% of the soil samples collected showed that magnesium was deficient. So that means only 25% falls within that safe zone. And it therefore means that the inclusion of magnesium in any sound nutrient management program has a basis, because magnesium is very vital in the process of photosynthesis, that process by which the plant makes food. And it's also a very important component of a number of enzymes within the plant. And so it is that this line was actually developed with that in mind, responding to the findings. So let us look at, for example, zinc, which is a microelement. When we look at zinc, 65% of our soils are showing deficiency in zinc. What does that mean? It means that because zinc is a critical nutrient element in the growth process, it helps in the formation of growth hormones within the plant, then it stands to reason that if your growth hormones are not produced in adequate volumes, then you will have reduced leaf sizes and sometimes curling, and you will have a sluggish growth of your banana plants. So with that in mind, these realities and technical findings were actually placed in our consideration when formulating the booster line. Just to zoom in on a comment that Mr. Lewis made earlier about the borer and its impact on the mat, the growing zone of the plant. It is also accurate to say that the borer, which actually is known for destroying the root system of the plant, the borers tend to survive within a soil pH ranging from 4.5 to 6. That is their ideal comfort zone in terms of pH. Now, what it means is that once we determine the pH of the soil and make the environment unfavorable for their survival, meaning taking that soil pH above 6, it means that you actually start the process of controlling and eliminating that sort of problem affecting your banana plant. So we have been integrally involved, working along with our technical staff from the banana board to see how best we can assist our farmers overcome some of these hurdles that continues to be threat, and navigating together is what we intend to do.
All right, and I should let you know that we're not getting our second farmer. Phone is going straight to voicemail. So clearly, we'll not be able to have conversation with the second farmer. But we continue. Mr. Lewis, are there additional support initiatives that have been implemented after the passage of Hurricane Beryl? I know we'd have been talking about the catastrophe fund, but what else is going on that you care to mention?
Okay, so I just want to emphasize again I spoke about it already, but what is in train, yes, is the government assistance to the Ministry of Agriculture in terms of fertilizer assistance. And as Melvin mentioned about the booster line, we as the industry is very happy about that line of fertilizer, in the sense that the traditional banana farmer, they talk about 15-5-35, and it's something that is embedded in their culture, and we do varying methods of trying to encourage them to work with this line of fertilizer, as Melvin mentioned. Also has magnesium, sulfur, and the micro elements, which at times when we carry out soil analysis from our lab in Banana Board, as well as Newport-Fersan, a lot of time these elements are lacking. But then, of course, this fertilizer presents that that opportunity for the farmers to get those nutrients, and which the 15-5-35 will never ever give. And so in this program that we're implementing through the Ministry of Agriculture, through the government, we have some bias against use of this fertilizer. We did it in tropical storm grapes, where we issued the yield booster fertilizer, and so and from there the farmers would have seen the result after the application in tropical storm grapes, and the following year we had it was one of the highest production, and I think this is likely to happen as well when this fertilizer is utilized because of the value of this fertilizer.
All right, thank you so very much. We're on to the final break. When we come back, I just want to get some additional advice that you'd want to leave with the farmers in terms of helping them to build resilience. And Melvin, I want to get from you any other solution or strategy that you might want to share with the farmers. All right, so we're inside now the final segment of the program, and as we come back, I'm heading straight back to Melvin Henry. Melvin, can you just share with us before we get out of here? Well, no, let me start with Mr. Lewis. I'll wrap up with Melvin. Mr. Lewis, we're still in the hurricane season, and so it is important for the farmers to continue to build resilience. In fact, see they're going through a period of moisture, additional moisture now. What advice do you leave with them to help them to continue to build resilience?
Yes, and it's a pity that Miss Herman Campbell did not come on the program. Apart from being a stalwart farmer, the thing I want to bring out is that there's a place for the FIA bananas. In her case, she had 70% damage in a regular Robusta variety. But then for the FIA, there she had about an acre or so. She was one of our farmers. We had a demonstration plot from way back in 2020, 2011 thereabout. But that suffered about, in her case, about 5%. The overall damage of the FIA was about 30%, over 20-30%. But in her case, it was much less. And a lot of the banana on the market now for cooking is really FIA bananas, and so I just want to stress that the importance of that banana as in terms of resilience of the farmer. We're not saying farmers should replace their banana, but there's a place for the FIA banana in Jamaica in terms of for cooking and for chips especially, not so much for ripening for most part. And so that's something I want to stress, and also to overstress the importance of the removal of the navel to prevent the seeds in the FIA banana. That is something that I want to stress. We did it already in our program, but right now we're still having issues because some farmers, they were not taking care of their FIA and they were not removing the navels, and so persons are having FIA, but for some of them they end up with the seeds, and that's a turn off. And so we want to emphasize that as well, and to say that yes, despite the fact that we're still in the hurricane season, and there's a likelihood that there could be, not necessarily even for this season, but as we go along, there could be freak storms, and we are saying farmers should develop the culture. These cultures must be there every time, not just about hurricane season. But if they practice good pruning, they will always have suckers at a certain level that if you have wind damage, those suckers can take over and give you a bunch as quick as possible. Farmers are carrying too many suckers in the mat, and when you have that, then it delays the next crop, the next bunch. And so the issue of also root health in terms of borer, nematode management, that is very vital to ensure that in case there is high wind, you will not have uprooting, because when you're uprooting, that's where the high expense is in terms of recovery of your fields, right? The whole drainage, very, very critical as well. For Melvin, in terms of fertilizer, is very critical as well in terms of maintaining good nutrition. When the plants are healthy, then you also will have in terms of even quicker recovery from any such disaster, and also even in terms of cicotoca management. When you have good nutrition, the cicotoca levels are much less. So
Okay.
and to stress again that in case there's when you have damages from a hurricane, when you have these the plants that break at the cedar stem, those maidens, we are saying this is one of the biggest ills that we have. If they just cut the maidens and not bearing in mind that they will regrow. If they regrow, then what happens is that the next crop will be delayed, and those maidens, you will never get anything from them. So there has to be a way where we discourage those maidens that were broken from regrowing, and that's one of the most important aspects of the chopper program, discouraging those maidens that were damaged to ensure that they do not regrow, so that you encourage the next crop, which is the suckers coming, which will give you a bunch at the quickest possible time.
All right, and Melvin, that leaves you just a minute now to give us any additional information that you'd want the farmers to know.
Okay, so with that said, we also realize that from time to time, unlike what is happening now with adequate rainfall, our banana and plantain farmers go through periods of drought. Now, with that said, we have in-house at Newport-Fersan a unique line of sprayers, the Guarani spray pans, and it also has a capability to be, we can retrofit it with a soil injector. What does that mean? During the period of low moisture levels within the soil and your plants being deprived, and I've seen several farmers in Portland and St. Mary during drought periods use this approach to good effect. So during the period where you have adequate moisture from rainfall, you tend to use the granular forms of the fertilizer, for example, the booster line. Now, with this in mind, we have the Guarani sprayer, we have the soil injector. Pretty much you, based on the guide provided, make a diluted solution and you punch that injector within the root zone of the plant, and a certain volume of that solution is emitted. What it actually does is actually helps the plant during this stressful time to continue to thrive. And you have less reduction in terms of your target, in terms of yield. In addition to that, the Manipex line of fertilizer provides all the essential nutrient elements, and as a result of that, that is part of the contingency strategy that we recommend during these harsh conditions when soil moisture levels are below the ideal limit. So you can always touch base with us as it relates to those contingency, working again in close conjunction with our technical team from the Banana Board.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. This has been a very enlightening and engaging conversation with you, and we do look forward to more of these going forward. Thanks much.
Thanks,
thanks as well for having.
All right. Take care. Melvin Henry, Technical Manager at Newport-Fersan, Jamaica, and Oral Lewis, who is Coordinator of Extension Services with the Banana Board, rounding out Fersan in the field. A quick word from them, and then we have a little bit more to do before we get out of here.
Fersan in the Field, Real Issues, Real Solutions was brought to you by Newport-Fersan Jamaica Limited, the first on the land.